If you're struggling to charge 10 or 20,000 K for brand strategy, then you need to watch this video because what you're going to learn will completely change your perspective on what you can and should be charging. And if you apply what you learn, it'll completely change your results as well. Charging $10 or $20,000 for brand strategy is not crazy. It's far from it. Here's what's actually crazy. There are businesses out there that are bleeding money every single month, way more than 10 or 20K, because their brand is completely misaligned. Their audience is unfocused, their position isn't selling their uniqueness, their messaging is all over the place. They're watching customers walk away, missing sales left, right, and center, and the leadership team knows that their product is as good, if not better, than the competition. These companies literally cannot afford to keep doing nothing. But are these the companies you're going after? Or are you targeting bootstrap startup founders who hold hour-long meetings to discuss every dollar going out the door? Often, not being able to charge what you're worth comes down to believing that you need to serve the bottom of the market. You don't. In fact, when you do, you become the bottom of the market. And that's a brand perception that does not breed confidence. You need to aim for companies already pulling in at least $1 million a year. Now, these guys know that they could easily double their revenue with a good strategy. And when they see that $10,000 or $20,000 price tag, it looks like pocket change compared to plugging all the holes in their sinking ship. Now, when it comes to justification, you should always aim to build case studies and track the numbers of your past clients. But even if you don't have these types of case studies, there are countless studies out there that prove time and again the power and value of strategic branding. Lucid Press found that consistent strategic branding bumps average revenues by about 20 to 30%. Now, on $1 million business, that's $200,000 to $300,000 per year. Keep that number in your head while we talk about these $10,000 and $20,000 fees. Now, here's what's really happening. Most strategists get stuck on the $2,000 to $5,000 jobs because they keep chasing startups with empty wallets. And ironically, working with these guys is often a lot more painful. Imagine some founder who's having panic attacks about cash flow. Every single invoice you send them triggers one of those emails. Hey, can we just tweak this real quick? At the end, you end up doing 10 rounds of changes and your time gets completely drained and you feel like you're losing your mind. And I know this because I have been there. Businesses that chase the lowest price are often the hardest to work with. Now flip that around for a second. Think about working with a business that's already doing 1 or 2 mil a year. Now, although these are relatively small businesses, they're not sitting there counting their pennies, and quite often they're putting money aside to reinvest in the business and are on the lookout for the best way to do that. They can actually see the value in what you do and how it could help them to get to the next few million. They've got the money and they've got the vision to treat you like a partner, not some expense they're trying to minimize. And that's exactly where you want to be. Now look, I get it. Startups are the most obvious choice. They're starting their business. They need a brand. It seems easy. But it doesn't take long to realize they only have one burning question on their mind. How much does it cost? So you do your best, you bend over backwards to work with their budget because you don't want to lose the job either. But here's what happens. You get trapped in these crazy cycles of tiny fees, crazy long hours, and absolutely zero growth, with maniac startup founders chasing you for every single change. Now, if you want to actually break free from that mess, you need to pick up your chair, pick up your rod, and start fishing in a different pond. Start identifying businesses that have already proved that their products work and they're making real money. They're itching to scale up, but they know that something's holding them back. Now, you'll often find that these businesses got to where they got with a brand that they're not particularly proud of. And there's a growing feeling that it's actually holding them back. And trust me, these businesses are absolutely everywhere. It could be a small boutique law firm, a local architecture practice, or a logistics company. Maybe they've had decent growth, but they're stalling and they know they need to change. They know they need to refine their target, sharpen their messaging, and finally show up like a serious brand. So they already get it. They understand exactly why strategy matters. They're not interested in speaking with a designer. They want a consultant. They want someone who can think 3 moves ahead. Someone who can identify the problems that they haven't even considered yet. Look, here's the truth. Working with startups is like having an anchor tied to your ankle. They're tied on budgets, they create this gravitational pull, and that drags everything down. Now look, there might be a unicorn out there, but chasing those 1 in 10 or 20 or 1 in 100 businesses is hard work, and it's not where you want to be. They treat strategy like it's some nice to have luxury instead of something that keeps their business breathing. So you pitch them a plan, and that could transform everything. And they respond with you with, that sounds really good. I really love it, but it's a little bit out of our price range. Can we do it for 2K instead? Or can we just do the messaging part? And now you're stuck. You have to strip down your plan to nothing, like being a chef who's only allowed to use salt and pepper. Nobody's happy with what comes out on the other end. They start treating you like hired help instead of an expert that you actually are. And every phone call starts with, hey, can we just change this tiny thing? And then suddenly your profit margin disappears completely. You end up working for free. I've been exactly where this is, getting all that polite feedback that slowly kills everything that you've built, and then ending up in these back and forth conversation that drains your time and energy and makes you feel like you don't want to do this anymore. You deserve to work with clients who see strategy the same way they see oxygen. It is absolutely imperative. Now, look, the good news is that you can avoid all of that pain with a simple filter system. Here it is. First thing, your client needs to be making at least $1 million a year. That way strategy comes out of an actual budget, not from the founder's personal checking account. Number 2, the product needs to already work, and they need to prove that with real sales and real numbers. Third, you need to be talking directly with whoever's making those decisions, not some middle manager who has to ask permission for everything. Now, if that passes all 3 of these tests, this is what I call revenue ready. It's like having a radar that spots clients who will pay happily $10,000 to $20,000 without even blinking, and then you can jump in revenue afterwards. No more guessing games about whether or not they're serious. So let me break this difference down for you in a bit more granular detail. Startups, in my perspective, are pure pain. You get these endless sales calls that drag on for months of maybe we'll do something before they finally say yes to anything. And when they do hire you, they do everything in their power to keep it at the bare minimum, and they still try to haggle you down on price. Then comes the scope creep. Suddenly it's, hey, can you just add this one little thing with 0 extra payment? You end up doing twice the work for half the money. Scale-ups, on the other hand, are completely different animals. They make decisions fast because they already know what they want. For example, we need to nail our messaging for this particular niche. And even if they don't know that, working with you will make that clear, and they make decisions quickly and their projects go deep. We're talking full brand overhauls, ongoing support, future strategies, the works. One scale-up client will make you more money and credibility than a dozen startup jobs combined. Trust me, working with businesses like this compared to working with startup founders who are bootstrapped is an absolute breath of fresh air. They make decisions quickly. They are business minded. They reinvest in their business. They have budget set aside. They're generating revenue. They are not counting any penny. They are looking forward to their vision, and they know they need to invest to get there. It is a completely different kettle of fish. So if you want to stop playing in the bottom of the market and instead play in the pond of abundance, then you may need to completely rethink how you see yourself. So apply that 3-layer filter that I spoke about before to all of your efforts. Focus it everywhere, your emails, your LinkedIn bio, and when you introduce yourself at events. And speaking of events, stop showing up at these freelancer meetups where everybody's broke. Go to where business owners actually have budgets and hang out. Industry conferences, mastermind groups, and if you're up for it, put your hand up for speaking events. The blunt truth of it is, more often than not, the ceiling we put on our earnings is self-imposed. Now, I can tell you this from my own experience and that of hundreds of our students. Simply doubling, tripling, or even quadrupling your rate doesn't only work. Often it's a rite of passage to be taken seriously. The missing piece so many have is who you're putting those prices in front of. Multiply your rates for bootstrap startups and you'll be waiting a long time for that callback. do it for businesses who are looking for a consultant to allocate their budget to, and you found the right offer to the right market that can lift the ceiling to the big leagues.